Guys, it's Ray Ferguson with Boots in Business, and today we're on episode number 5. We're talking about real estate, and we're going to talk about who you need to have on your power team to help you grow your real estate business or get you into that first investment. Especially if you're in the military, you need to start doing a lot of networking. And I know that's really not what a lot of you like to do while you're in the military, but I'm going to tell you it can help you out down the road, especially if you get closer and closer to the retirement side. You're going to want to start networking more and more outside the base and not just within the base. Okay. So let's get into that a little bit. Let's talk about it. Listen, in the military, as you're going from base to base, and if you want to get into the real estate, you're going to have to work with a certain group of people. Okay. You're going to have to find the realtor, contractors, inspectors, things like that. And maybe you're also trying to find a good banker and a lender. Well, look, you can ask your buddies on the base. You can ask people that they network and work with. But let's talk about that a little bit because I've got a real passion for finding the right people that you can work with while you're going through this and wanting to get into real estate investing. So let's talk about realtors right off the bat. I would tell you when I moved up here to Fort Lee at the time, which is now Fort Greg Adams, I called. I knew I was coming up here. It was going to be my last duty station. I was leaving Jefferson City, Missouri. I was running the ROTC program out there, and I loved it at Lincoln University. Shout out to all the HBCUs out there. But I was moving up here and bringing my family. And so what I did was I called one of the biggest firms near the base, the realtor firms, and I said, I want a realtor that knows a lot about real estate investing, that understands a real estate investor. So they put a lady on the phone. Her name was Faye. And I would tell you, I've been working with Faye now for the last 8 years, almost 9 years since I've known Faye. But she's my realtor. She is 100% my realtor, and I let everybody know during my real estate meetings, different people that I meet and stuff like that, different realtors that I meet. I'm part of the Realtors Association here in Colonial Heights and in this area, but I let the realtors know I have a realtor. It's kind of like my wife. I'm married. I've been married now for 32 years. I have a wife. I have a realtor. And the reason why I do that, okay, is because it's okay to bring me real estate deals, but I want them to understand when I turn around and sell that property, if I invest in it, put a little money into it and want to flip it, or if I make it into a rental or whatever it is, I'm going back to my realtor because I've got a strong relationship with her and she's going to help me get that property sold or rented or whatever it is I plan on doing with it. So I have networked and found the right realtor for me, and she's amazing. But I want you to understand, I am loyal like a dog. And I will tell you that that's worked very well for me, especially since I've been growing roots here in this area. You've got to be loyal to people that you want to do business with. And in the real estate community, you can really get a sense of people that are kind of flippant. They're ones who, yeah, I'll work with you now, but then, maybe they start going and start doing projects with other people. And you want to have loyalty within the game of real estate. So my advice to you to find a really good realtor, one is to check out with other, people who bought properties up on the base, and they would tell you. A lot of times I'm finding out in Facebook chats and things like that up on the base. I think there's a Fort Greg Adams Wives Club for Facebook. They would put in there, hey, who's a really good realtor? I'm moving there in about 6 months. All of a sudden, all these people start showing up, and they're recommending a lot of these realtors in the area. And you could do the same thing with contractors and bankers and things like that as well. But it's super, super, super important to find that realtor, especially right off the bat. And a lot of times, what I've found is near the military base, they will have a military relocation expert or group, or they have been kind of certified in some way to where they say that they're military certified. So they're there to help you because they understand the challenges of being in the military. So when I contacted Faye, and I think this was a little over 8 years ago when I was first moving up here, we went around and looked at all these houses. And it wasn't the right time for us to buy because as a house would come up on the market, they were being taken off and being sold. Okay. And I was being an investor, I knew that I didn't want to overpay for a house. And she understood that as well after talking with me and understanding what type of property that I wanted. So, what I decided to do, because I knew I was going to retire here and I was going to be here for at least a year or so on the base before I actually retired out, I said, I'm going to rent. Okay. So she put me in contact with somebody and I found a house to rent for me and my family for that first year. And man, I'm so glad I did. I am absolutely 100% so glad I did. But I spent time with Faye to try to find the houses, but she got to teach me more than just, this where this house is. These are good areas to live in. These are the areas that I would want to be in. And she was able to take me through and show me all the different, not just the houses, but the neighborhoods and things like that. So she was extremely valuable in that. But I ended up renting a house, right? I ended up renting a house because I knew that I didn't find the exact right house that I wanted, because that house was going to be my retirement house for me and my family. And so that I wasn't just looking for an investment. I was looking for the right house for me. So I rented this house out in Colonial Heights, and I was in my last year here on the base, and I put in my retirement packet. So I knew I had a year or less. And then sure enough, about 9 months later, I transitioned out. Well, I was still in my lease, but I found a property that turned around. I found it through my investment channels, and I'll tell you what I did. Where I lived in Colonial Heights, I had these bandit signs. So it's a little yellow sign that says I buy houses and has my phone number on it. Well, I put them down near the railroad tracks, and then a couple areas around the town. And yeah, I can get in a little trouble with that through the local ordinance. All they're going to do is tear them down or tell me I owe a fine or something like that. And I'm okay with that, because what happened was I had a guy call me and say, "Look, I've got 2 houses in Petersburg. Would you like to buy them?" I'm thinking, because I've been looking at the Petersburg area, and there's some houses that need a lot of work in Petersburg. And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll come take a look at them." I get out there, and one house is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, that was pretty much very well done, and had 2 acres of land. The second house, which was right beside of it, was I think it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and had 8 acres of land. And he wanted to sell both of them. And this was right behind the base. Like literally like within a mile from the base. And so it was a great fit for me. It was a great fit because I own me and my family, we own the escape room business, which is about a 5-minute drive. And so this is right near 85, 95 on the interstate, near the business that I needed to get to quickly, because at the time we were, building that up. Up close to the base. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is great. Commissary's 10 minutes away. And I'm like, okay, let's talk price, and so we talk price. So I bring my wife over and we take a look at it. And I thought she'd want to stay in the one that's got 3-bedroom, 1-bath. She said, no, I want the bigger house, or I want the smaller house with a big plot of land. We're going to build onto it. And I was like, I like you. I like what you're thinking. So I listened to her, and I knew that happy wife, happy life. So what we did was we added on to that. We bought both of them and added on to that property. So now I've got my house that I live in, which is a rancher. It's only about 2,500 square feet, but we've added on to it because at the time it was like 1,300 square feet. So we added on the main suite in the back of the house with a deck and stuff. But now we've got 8 acres there, and then I control the land right beside of me, and I rent that out. Well, guess what? That house, the cash flow that comes in off that helps to pay for my retirement home that I'm living in. So, and then I control my neighbor that lives beside of me. I kind of like that. And I've got 10 acres. Okay. But I say that because I was living in a rental house. I didn't find exactly what I was looking for, especially for my retirement house. But I rented out long enough and I found that, and it wasn't through conventional methods. That guy could have put them out on the real estate market and would have sold, but he would have to show them a bunch of times. And there was a reason why he was selling them. I just made him a good offer. We worked out a good deal, and I bought both properties. And the moral of that is, I wasn't ready to buy a house, even though I was an investor. And I let her know I'm an investor. I want to buy a house. I didn't find the right house for me. So I put it on pause. I waited until I found exactly what we wanted. And now we're super happy with where we live. Um, so my realtor did her job, and then I rented a property out, and she was like, okay, I get it. You're not going to buy a house with what I'm showing you. And she spent a lot of time with me, but it just wasn't right. But then when I became an investor again, and I was looking for properties out there that I was looking to invest in, I went right back to Faye. I said, hey, remember me? We're in our house now. Thank you so much. And we used her inspector. Matter of fact, Faye, we used the contractors that she used to actually add on to the back of our house. So she had a lot of really good connections, and she did know investors. Oh, wow, she was awesome. But she knew the right connections of people for the inspector, the contractors, and all that kind of stuff. And so I leveraged my contact with her, and I kept a good rapport with her. And now we buy and sell houses with Faye. We've been doing that now for 8-9 years. So I go into that rant about loyalty with that realtor, because that is absolutely something that you must try to find. And I wouldn't go back and forth between realtors a lot unless you have a reason to kind of just fire one and move on to the next one. But be honest about it. Be straightforward and honest. Like, look, I'm not going to work with you anymore, and here's why. I'm moving on. I wouldn't just leave those hanging chads out there to where, you don't let them know what's going on. Contractors, wow. I've got tons of stories on contractors that have worked well, that have not worked well. The contractors that Faye introduced me to build on the back of our house, they were amazing. And we've had them come back and do some other stuff for us. But I've had some real horror stories with contractors. I've had a house that we were supposed to have been done within 6 months. 3 years later, we were just on it. And that's a horror story from several bad contractors. And there was a lot of comedy of errors behind that too. We actually still made money on it, I think, when it was all said and done. But it was because of COVID, and it drove the prices up. But having crappy contractors, let me tell you, word of mouth is good. And it's good to call and check out different people as they're vetted. But you've really got to find the right contractors before you get out there and try to get some projects done. I would highly recommend, that if you're going to go this route and you're going to buy property and you're going to do some work or maybe rehabs or something like that, highly recommend go to real estate investment group meetings in your area. Okay. Now, this may be getting out of your comfort zone a little bit, especially if you're still in the military or maybe you're out, but find a real estate investment group in your area. Now, I run my meeting once a month. I'm on the Meetup group platform. So if you go to meetup.com, if you type in real estate, Colonial Heights, real estate, Petersburg, Virginia, you're going to find me. I've been running that meeting for 7-8 years. We got like 1,400 members. When I host this meeting on a monthly basis, I bring in guest speakers, and we have somewhere between 60, 80, 90 people within this room. And the reason why I bring that up is because it is a connection place. It is a connection place. It is a networking venue to where we have realtors, we have realtor brokers, we have contractors that come in there. We have inspection people that come in. We have real estate investors. We have people that lend money. We have all these groups of people that come together. And guess what? In my group, I make you introduce yourself and what you're trying to get out of the real estate world, so everybody hears it. So when it comes time to networking at the end of the meeting, you know who to go see. Now, I run my meeting my way because I mainly want it to be a connection portal. You may go to other groups that don't do stuff like that, but you can still hand business cards. You can still get business cards from people. And oh, by the way, you can find out who the investors are in the area and say, hey, who do you use for this, for this, for this? I get called constantly, about different type contractors to use for X, Y, or Z. Okay. And contractors will make or break your investment property, period. And it's a long road if you find the wrong contractor. And I've done that. I've hired the wrong guy before. He was doing an excellent job on the first property we gave him. And then the second property we gave him, he was doing excellent. So we gave him a third, fourth, and fifth right on top of it, because I was doing a lot of stuff when I started investing here in the Petersburg area near Fort Greg Adams. And oh my gosh, it was going great until we got to the end of the projects and he couldn't finish because he ran out of money. So that was, and a lot of times on contractors, they're taking from Peter and paying Paul, which means that, they'll take your money from a project and go finish up a project they haven't finished up yet. I found that happens. It's very common. It's not really what I like to see, but man, I really feel it a lot of times when we're doing some of these projects. Listen, your power team. Okay, you need a very good realtor. You need very good contractors. You need to find a good local inspector. And you need to find a really good banker. Okay, now, two things about a banker that you need to know. First is start the relationship with the banker well before you need money from them. I would tell you that as an investor, that is somebody who's borrowing money to buy a house. If I'm going to live in it, I had started a relationship with my banker before I ever needed money. Okay. I had heard through different realtors and different investors, this is a really good banker. So I went and saw my buddy Mark Stevens down at the local Touchstone Bank. I went and met him well in advance. He wanted me to do a personal financial statement, PFS, filled it all out, gave it to him. I gave him my LES from my military paycheck. He understood I was going to retire, and I was like, this is what I think my retirement paycheck is going to be. I didn't know about disability at the time where I was going to be, but I was putting that claim in throughout this year while I was here. But I was giving him all that information. I gave him, hey, I've got a 400, I've got this type of life insurance policy. I've got this, I've got that. So I laid it all out for him. But I got to know him in advance before I went to him and say, look, I need money. So you need to find those relationships and build them and really put time and effort into them. It's not just, turning in paperwork. It's people business. Okay. It's relationship building. So that's the first thing you need to know is build a relationship with that banker well in advance. Okay. The second thing is when you're working with bankers, find somebody who's good, but find somebody who's credible and reliable, that's going to just shoot you straight with everything. Because sometimes, especially if you're an investor, you're not always, if you're looking at real estate deals, they'll tell you whether or not you're finding a good deal. So that's the second thing is find a banker that's going to be honest with you and it's going to just let you know up front, hey, you know what? This is not a really good deal for you. I would not do this deal and I'm not going to be able to approve the loan. A lot of times they're not going to approve the loan for you unless it's a good deal anyway. But you really want to find that really good banker and work with them. You got to build that relationship though. So to kind of wrap it up, your power team in the real estate world really evolves around that realtor. And guess what? They know a lot of contractors, a lot of people, a lot of realtors that I know, especially working in the military community. They're like general contractors because sometimes you're buying a property and you're not there, or you're buying a property or trying to sell it and you're actually already deployed and moved on to the next base. You PCS'd. And so they're trying to bring in contractors to fix it up for you as you're leaving or as you're already gone. So they're kind of like general contractors. So they do a lot of work for their money. So take care of them at the end and keep that really good relationship with them. Contractors, they're a dime a dozen, but you got to sift through that. And, not everybody on Angie's list is golden. Not everybody that you're told about is golden. You need to vet them. You need to spend time and talking and trying to find some references of people, of projects that they've done and kind of get into the background of it. Inspectors are really good probably around the table. I know here in Virginia, you got to have a lot of classes. There's a lot of stuff that you got to do. Usually they're very good. But I have found that, some inspectors really go into the minutia detail into everything needs to be fixed in the house. And there's some that's very general with what they do. And some put, it's going to cost X amount of dollars to fix. Some don't put X amount of dollars what it's going to cost to fix it. So find the right one for you and just talk to them about that and find out what their pricing is. And then bankers, build a relationship, ask around, get your paperwork to them well in advance, and just find one that's going to be a straight shooter and honest with you. But I've got a great relationship with my banker, Mark. Me and my partner do. We spend time talking to him, but I let them know I'm upfront and honest. Look, I was going to retire, or I'm retiring. I'm going to buy this business, or I'm going to buy this property. I'm looking at purchasing a property here. What do you think, Mark? I get his honest feedback and honest opinion, whether I'm using his money or whether I'm using a private lender money. So I kind of come back to the same thing. You got to build a network of people. You got to build a power team. And when you build that power team, be upfront and honest with them, pay them on time, take care of them. And if you find out something's not right, confront them with it, and talk to them about it. And one thing I also say, and I didn't really talk about this with the contractors, you got to have a contract. Okay. You got to have a contract with the scope of work, and you got to get into the details, but we'll have another session on that. But remember, building that power team within the real estate community is absolutely critical. And it really starts with that realtor, because that realtor, especially if you just get into a base, they're going to be the ones that point you in the right direction for maybe a lot of different people, because they know who to use and they know who not to use. Okay. So build your power team, get into the real estate world, and let's figure it out as we go further.